Okay. Okay, well you can go ahead.
The the pronunciation that I get of the father's name Yah-O comes from comparative linguistics. For one, the situation I was just going over with Yahya 4Q120, which is in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says that the Greeks transliterated the name of God that native biblical speakers spoke, and they used iota, alpha, and omega. Now the iota plus the alpha is equivalent to the yah sound, or in
Hmm.
modern Hebrew it would be yod. The omega speaks for itself, which is, o, the long o sound. um he didn't get that it's a transliteration. Uh, so the transliteration was to preserve the original phonetics of the original sound that this word was making. Then you also have the Egyptians, where today you will see the Shasu of Yah-O, but once you understand that the Egyptians use what is called symbolic, if I'm saying it, symbolic orthography, which is a group writing system used for foreign gods, it was a type of um grammar that they used when they were speaking about gods who wasn't part of their, if I'm saying this right, pantheon, or all the gods that they had and all that. You also have the 4th and 5th century. I'm probably not gonna say it all the way right. Fourth or fifth century. I think it's either BCE or BC, where the Egyptians, their dialects switched to it starts with a D. I forgot his I forgot exactly what it's called. Like it's not democratic. Demotic, not demonic, or
Demotic script. You're saying it right.
uh-huh. Yep. They also have this name attested. Josephus also has this name attested, where he said that people were saying the name Ja-O. He spelled it with a J because in that time they used the J. And then also you have in, if I'm not mistaken, the not Assyrian, um, but it has to do with the elephantine. Um,
So I got a question.
uh-huh.
Is the language you're referring to a dead language?
Now it is, but at the
Like
time of the first century
no, I'm
AD.
saying like now. I'm saying like now to where there is no way for them to reference today how it was actually spoken because it's a dead language.
Oh no, that's I don't agree with that.
No, that's the question I'm asking. I'm asking, do you know if it's a dead language or not? Because when it comes to dead languages, there is no way to different to know for certain whether or not a language was a
Something like that.
tonal language or not.
Okay, I get
Because
what you're
Yeah.
saying. No, I don't
because
refer to it. My fault. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say because just like in English, the O can be O, it can be ah, it can be all type of shit. You know what I'm saying? So it
Right, but
I'm, if it's a if it's a tonal language and they were preserving the phonetics, which is what transliteration does.
mhm,
What evidence if it's if emphasis on the word if the
mhm.
way that it is spelled, it may still be pronounced Yahweh because the O could be pronounced different depending on the letters and all of that shit before, just like for us.
Well, the name Yahweh doesn't usually pop up until you get the lexicon from Jacenius, and different Hebrews, and or not different, well, converts, like Tiberian Jews and Missionaic Jews, who pronounce this name Yahweh. And they also did that with the Nakud system, because with the Nakud system, you will have the 4-letter tetragrammaton, and then once they add a whole lamb, or it's something, it's with 2 dots under the first letter of Yah, of his name, which is the Yod or in modern Hebrew and the Yah in ancient Hebrew, they will say that since they don't want to go against one of the Ten Commandments and bring God's name in vain, people like Rabbi Akiva and these people ended up saying that, okay, we're just going to say Hashem and replace it over 6,000 times because we have this many different dialects and we don't want to mispronunciate the name. But
I
also,
got a
I don't
question. I
believe.
got a question.
Uh-huh.
All right, because I know we got people in here that's Hebrews or other. Your Gad, when you was a Hebrew Israelite, did you guys call them Yahoo? And if not, what was
And
the
I was
difference?
going to ask you. I come from the era where all these different translations of the name came about when it first started. Like people was they were coming up with different names for Christ, like Jesus, which I'm just gonna call him Jesus, right?
Uh,
And like Yahweh, right? I mean like Yahweh, right?
or what about
The
Ahaya?
word
Would that be one of
Yahweh
those names?
has yeah, I was gonna ask him,
That would be
Uh,
does
DOCC.
what he calls him this Yao if I'm saying it right or if I'm correctly um quote him saying that the so-called Most High's name is Yao,
Yeah. Oh,
right? Is there anybody else in academia making that statement? Because I find Hebrew Israelites and Hebrew Israelite cults, which it is a cult, they how they solidify the different groups is to make a spinoff. It's all the same framework, but they will make a different doctrine or have a different name. And that would be the
right, right,
main argument to say
right.
that my group is the elite group. My group is the only group that God is with.
Right.
And
Okay. Hmm.
they'll make all these different pronunciations of God or just regular, just biblical words. They'll create a group just off a doctrine of saying a certain word in a verse a certain way. You
Now
know what I
the
mean?
yeah, and I agree with you. The name Yahweh comes from the 1960s, from when ISUPK was ICUPK, and they believed that the language that they were speaking was Lashawan Kadash, which is another wrong pronunciation because they also believe that vowels were not okay when I say vowels they believe I, E, O, U, sometimes Y, those were not written in the ancient language. I also agree with them because then they'll go to the point of the letter J was never pronounced for any of these names about the
I
bam.
got a
But the
question
simple
real
fact
quick.
that you have these sounds, right?
Yeah.
You have like I said, Yahweh comes from the camps. Ahia also comes from the camps. But what people misplace is that in Exodus 3 and 14, when he responded to Moses, he was being sarcastic. He gave him a verb instead of instead of giving his proper name, which he did in the next verse in 3 and 15, which was replaced over 6,000 times.
Okay.
Um,
If I tell you, I like to correct you and tell you about the Lashawan Kodesh and the name Yahweh.
uh,
The Lashawan Kodesh was created by Arya,
right,
and
exactly. Yep.
how he developed the language
Mhm.
was by listening to babies speak.
Well, he shouldn't have done.
Now,
He shouldn't have listened to baby speak. He should have used comparative linguistics with all Semitic
no,
languages.
these are just country low life ghetto niggas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where the Hebrew Israelite movement came from.
Mhm.
And not to just put it blunt like that, but he said that the original language of the earth is spoken by babies when they're born. So
Yeah,
when a baby goes mama, da, gaga, and make all these different sounds, that's the original language.
yeah. No, I
It
don't.
has
I don't
no
follow
base
that
in
doctrine.
actual. I was there. I was taught by Arya
But you know what? But you know what's crazy?
where that language came from. He
They
developed the
also
language by
say
listening to a baby.
that this language has no vowels, but without vowels, you can't make
Right.
syllables.
Yeah. So basically, it's all bullshit. just to like not try to even make any kind of academic thing about where is this all made up. It's all just like the fringes that they wear was made up by Aria's country western style dress.
Exactly, and that's why I
Like,
say the fringes should be a whole garment that is able to conceal or cover your full body, with each fringe having a blue ribbon for each law. So instead of them just saying a t-shirt is a four-corner garment, which is not true, they get into the doctrine of saying, okay,
well, they
we're
used
wearing.
a shirt that had a split on the corner on each end of the shirt, making it
Yeah,
four
and that
corners.
that's not true, because the for one, a t-shirt does not conceal your full body. The root word for the word that's used in this garment is supposed to be able to conceal your whole body.
So why? I would say now on that I would say none of that stuff even matters for one. But the
Okay.
tradition of wearing fringes is being or what people think there are, or the authority, I would say, if I could put it like that, on it, comes from the Jewish people today. Those are the people, are the gatekeepers of this religion. Now, Hebrew Israelites like to discredit the Jewish people, right? On how what they believe and how fringes should be worn
Mhm.
and all this stuff. And even how the pronunciation of God's name and all this stuff. And we find that Hebrew Israelites is a cult. It is a cult. It's a false religion. Not saying anything religion is true. All religion is mythology. You know what I mean? With some legend and a little bit of history in there. But, and I'm not saying anybody shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. But it was created to control people's lives for the benefit these particular leaders. That's what
Okay,
it's made for. When you go
let me
all the way
ask
down
you.
the line, you see it over and over and over, and you see the falsehood, you see the misleading, you see the false the false teachings,
Mhm.
whether it's academically, linguistics, whether it's reading comprehension, English grammar,
Mhm.
wherever, how you even do it. Just for instance, how I was saying the other day, how all these years most black people, when they graduated high school, they got like a 3, 4th grade reading comprehension.
Uh,
And when they say right, the head of his hairs was white like wool, that sentence, and I got embarrassed on my own damn show after I left the Hebrew Israelite movement,
mhm.
right? And a teacher was on there. She was like, "That's not talking about the texture of Christ's hair. That's talking about the color
Uh,
of his hair. When it says his head and his hairs were white like wool." She
uh,
said a 3rd grader can tell you that. And we took it as, oh, see, Christ had an afro like a brother. Who else out there got hair of wool? It's not talking about wool hair, woolly hair. It's talking about the color. For
but
example, she
mhm.
said his eyes are brown like chocolate. That your eyes ain't like chocolate. No, your eyes are the color of chocolate. So these are just little things that these people use to put one over on black people
And that's
or
and what he's
Hispanics
Okay,
talking
and
or
about.
whatever
I
that really
understand that.
don't
What
have
he's
the
talking about,
education to understand these things.
Mhm.
right? Because what the brother
So
you're
that,
talking about is the difference between a metaphor and a simile, and this is something we all should have learned in 7th or 8th grade. It's
Okay,
it's
let me
basic.
ask you.
It's basic
Let me
language.
just ask you a question, right? I don't mean to cut you off, right? Okay,
no, go
now
ahead.
I have a different explanation than the camps. I don't believe that the white man is Esau, without the bam, et cetera, right? I'm asking you, okay, because
The Hebrew Israelite mindset.
the word for sold in he, because you got to think of it this, right. In the English translation, you see Deuteronomy 28:68, and you see that it says these people will be sold, but then it also says at the end of the prophecy, no one will buy them. So how can somebody be bought if no one is sold? Right? But with the word for sold in Hebrew, it's grammar is saying that these people, it's a reflexive verb, so it's saying that these people will sell themselves unto a people of fortresses, because the word Egypt doesn't just mean land of bondage and all that. We had this Rabadaim. Rabadaim is the house of servitude. Ma'arats, or what you see the modern Hebrew Masrim, that is the word for fortresses. Now it says that these people will sell themselves into a land of fortresses, and then later it shouldn't be that no one shall buy them, but no one shall redeem them. So can you give me give me anything? I ain't just asking for no sword. Just give me anything of a people um going into indentured servitude and then later forced into chattel slavery by the way of ships, plural. What other people has gone through that?
I believe it was the Turks
You
that
said
happened to.
the church?
If I remember right, I believe it was the Turks. So now, but that scripture is not talking about black slavery, or like we said, like the Edomites are not. I'm not the white man. The Edomites, regular history, academia tells you that the people Edom,
Uh-huh.
which were real people, that there are the people who the Romans came out of. Right now, the Romans are a group of people, right? And not saying that the Romans are the white people, or all the white people came from Rome, or
Yeah.
none of that shit. But the Edomites, the Romans came out of that lineage, right? Now
But it
people say,
never,
"Oh,
it
the
never
white man
says.
comes from the Caucasus Mountains,"
Uh-huh.
right? That's
Uh,
bullshit.
okay,
The
I get
Edomites
that.
came out of Mount Seir. So when they
Exactly.
say "Thou
Exactly.
that dwelleth with the clefts of the rock," they're talking about Mount Seir. They're not talking
Exactly.
about the Caucasus Mountain.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
You know what I
Because
mean? So this
also
is
when
more
they
cult
say
shit
when they say
that
that Esau and Jacob, just because they're two different nations doesn't mean that they're two different ethnicities.
right.
Exactly. So
Now
these were
you
twin
also see
brothers.
that Edom, one of Edom's main deities was Yahweh. The Canaanite deities was Yahweh.
Uh-huh.
You will find more archaeological evidence on the Canaanites worshiping Yahweh and the Edomites worshiping Yahweh than you will find these so-called Israelites worshiping Yahweh.
Yeah,
And
because
you
the
will find out
Canaanites
that
had
Yahweh actually had a wife.
the Canaanites, their pantheon is with El and Yahweh as being the same person, the God of thunder, and that. So I know about that doctrine. That's why I said these One West camps.
And Canaanites are a
Their
black
main
people.
point, right? Their main point though is, you have these converts and these so-called white people. They did this, they did that, but in scripture it says that the Israelites basically did this to themselves, right? Now my point was that you have um Israelite, these, I'll say these camps which are saying that white people are not Hebrews. I believe white people are Hebrews, they're just not Israelites. There was more than one Hebrew. Anybody under Abram was a Hebrew. It don't matter if you was a Midian. It don't matter if you was an Ishmaelite, which is basically the same thing. Edomite. All these people were Hebrews, basically under the name of Eber, which we see today, which is Rabar. Now,
And that was taught in the school. That was called in the cult back in the day.
uh
And Eber is where Hebrew comes from. That was taught in the school years ago. That's one of the first lessons that you learn when you join.
right, I
The
get you.
first week you learn that.
But what they also have well, when we're talking about slavery, we're talking about the actual history. We didn't just start off as slaves. Those Edomites that they bring up in Joel, is not white people. Um, when in actual history we see so-called our own people, all skin folk and kinfolk, but it started with the trans-Saharan, if I'm saying that right, trans-Saharan slave trade, which uh we were indentured servants. We were not chattel slaves at that point. Once those people got to seeing the Portuguese and all these people, they started selling us to over that Atlantic. They also got cursed with speaking French and these different things, Swahili, these different things. But the only thing that happened that was told about in this prophecy about the Israelites is they would start off as indentured servants, and that they would later be forced into chattel slavery by the way of ships. That's when you
My
have
thing
just like I was saying,
with
you have these camps saying that Esau this, the white man this, the white man that, or this language doesn't have vowels and etc. They're wrong on that. So I agree with you being wrong on that.
now when you say that these African Americans became are the original Israelites and they came into slavery instead of across the Atlantic, I have a hard time believing that. Just like how the school, like y'all say camp. It was never called a camp back in the day. A
Okay.
camp was the corner that you spoke on,
Okay.
that you taught on. A camp, well, that was the camp was.
Mm-hmm.
Where you learned that was called the school. So that camp thing started like way past 2008. Like probably like 2015, something like that. People started using the school as the word camp.
Uh-huh.
Um now
I
so
don't know whose background that is, but it's not mine.
yeah, I don't know who that is. But like when you get the thing with the Apocrypha saying that the Native Americans that came over here,
Everybody
I don't
mute up.
follow
Let me
the
have
I
they
don't
came
I
talking.
from the
don't
Assyrian
Everybody mute
captivity.
up.
yeah, I don't follow the Apocrypha and I don't follow the
Uh,
Greek
uh,
New Testament.
Okay. So back to the that so I'll leave that for another time.
Okay.
So when they say that black people are Israelites, now if you look at the Bible, which I don't believe is literal, right? There's some history in it, there's
Mm-hmm.
some legend, and there's a whole lot of mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a people that had writing skills, that made clothing,
Mm-hmm.
that built buildings. And then you get all the way into Africa and you have a people that had no skills of making clothing, no skills of writing, no skills of building buildings. And so I'm looking at a reality thing. How could a nation of people within a few years lose all technology?
That's a lie. Because even at
You
King
know what I mean?
Solomon Day,
So
we even at King
because
Solomon
the
Day we had iron
sub-Saharan
workers.
wasn't making textiles until, if I'm not mistaken, like the first century.
Mhm.
They were wearing animal skin, and most of Africa, especially southern, the Saharan, didn't have any written language. They didn't have written language till it was given by the Caucasian. They
Uh,
didn't have a concept of the wheel until about 1800, when the white man showed them the wheel when they came to in Africa and stuff. So
uh,
I find it a hard time making these people line up with the Bible.
That's
And
that's only because, well, I see where you coming from. If I'm not mistaken, that's where they get to begin with all skin folk is kinfolk. They'll say all blacks are Hebrew Israelites. I don't believe that, because you also have to, you can't disregard DNA. Most of the blacks that were aborigines or here in America first, their haplogroup was CF. The ones that come from the slave trade and indentured servitude, their haplogroup is E.
we get into all of that because,
Mhm.
like, I don't believe most of the people that speak on that actually have any education in it. But that's the whole little thing. That's just why I think I don't get into it.
Okay.
But when you have, say, this time when these black people were so called in Egypt, I mean, so called in Israel, right?
Mhm.
Now you have the actual nation of Israel was taken over by Caucasians, or what people would call today Caucasians.
Mm-hmm.
Not call them Caucasian, but what people would call white people.
Right.
That whole kingdom was taken over by them. Herod was an Edomite.
Yeah, but
Now,
yeah, okay. I was just about to
right now,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Fast forward, we get that Israel was taken over. The Israelites fled, right? And
Yep.
now you only see a few hundred years later, or whatever, they asses is up in Africa now. What the quote is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how can these people lose all of their technology that they had, writing, all these things within a few hundred years? A few hundred years ain't a long time,
Mm-hmm.
or even 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You see these people not having anything um in their lives related to these people that was up north in another land,
Okay.
and saying that we was brought, like, now you got books, these like, for this talking, called black books.
Wait,
To me,
you
all
broke up a little
these,
bit. You broke up a little bit. You
I say, these books that I call black books,
uh
like these We the Black Jews by Dr. Ben, and you got the Rudolph Wensworth, or whatever the fuck his name was, and shit. People like that just wrote these pseudo history books. Like, none of that shit is true. Even the credentials of some of these writers, they fabricated and lied about. Dr. Ben never had a doctorate. You got people like Ivan Van Sertima that was just a linguistics and a novelist that didn't have any education in anthropology, or you know what I mean, archaeology or anything. Write these books. Now, these books came out at a time, like I was talking about earlier yesterday or something, was the Afrocentrism.
mm-hmm.
That was a term that was created from Temple University. I forgot the guy, the name that created the term, and it was to give black people self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm finding in my research, this self-esteem was lies. It was to lie to black people to make them believe that they were greater than other people that were on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, like, I was speaking to a woman yesterday too, was talking about the whole Boricua movement, where you got Puerto Ricans and all this stuff talking about. Because there was a time, I'm sure most of y'all black people that interact with Puerto Ricans, they would tell you back in the 80s, early 90s, I'm 100% Boricuan.
Yeah, I'm not
The
too
Boricua
familiar with the
Taino
Puerto Rico.
Indians were
I
wiped out.
just, which is crazy. I just asked somebody about the Puerto Rico thing, but
You
my
keep
bad. I ain't.
bringing me
Yeah.
up, but then when I speak, you don't want to talk to me.
No,
I never was
no,
Hold
talking
on,
no,
wait,
about
wait,
the
man.
hold on,
Man, I
Boricua
dealt with you
movement. Hold
yesterday,
hold
man.
on,
on.
Please
wait,
don't,
I was
please
never
wait,
talking
wait.
don't
about the
disrupt the
Boricua
conversation.
movement. I was never talking
Now,
about
the
the
Boricua
Boricua
movement.
movement
Hold
that
on,
you
Yeah,
wait,
brought
no,
up
wait,
I'm
wait,
that
not
wait.
your
came
Just let
from
him
husband,
bring
New
it
man.
out.
York.
I'm not your
No,
husband.
no,
Just
no, because he keeps doing that.
I'm
I
not
never
your
was talking
husband.
about
Now,
New
Hey,
hold
York.
on.
chill.
Why
Hold
don't you
on.
let
You
me finish
moved the
talking? See,
goalpost
now
to
the
New
statements are
York.
coming out that I'm making.
You
She stopped the
moved the
statements from coming
goalpost
out.
to New York.
See,
Don't
this is
speak
just a
on me if you don't want me to
disruption.
talk to you. Just
Ma'am,
don't
you
do
don't want
that.
me to speak because you're
No,
speaking
because
over me
I
just like
never
you
was
did
talking about
coming
New
into
York.
this
You
conversation.
moved the
okay.
You
goalpost
It's okay
stopped
to
me
though.
in the
New
middle
It's
of
York
my
okay.
to
statement,
try to
It's
prove a
okay. It's
point.
okay. It's okay. I
right?
just please
So
don't
No,
let
but
me
what I'm
lose it.
saying is he
so
moved
what
the
I'm
goalpost, but
saying
he's not going to
is that the
misrepresent what I
Boricua
said
movement
I
at
hear you,
was
ma.
all.
I hear
started
you,
the
ma. I
same
hear you, ma. I
time
promise I hear
as
you.
the Afrocentric movement.
And then it has shit to do with
And
what
it
I
was
was talking
created
about.
to give
The fuck you mean?
Hispanic self-esteem.
Right. Okay.
Now, academia,
Uh
history tells you that they got the writings in the books from the 1600s, 1700s.
huh.
The Tainos that are here today, right?
Uh huh.
Which there are none, they're living through the bodies of African and Spanish people. You can
Okay.
go
And
right
here through the
and look
lineage
up
of the
and stuff on Dominican Republic.
Hold
If
matriarchal
on,
I'm
wait,
not
ma. Hold
lineage. What
mistaken,
are
on,
you
if
wait,
I'm
ma.
talking
Hold
quoting
on,
the
about?
hold on,
percentage
hold on.
right,
What
the
are you talking about?
Dominican
You act like the
people
mother,
only
the
hold about,
mitochondrial DNA just
if I
disappears
got this
because the
right,
man disappears. That
Hold
doesn't
on, ma.
happen.
Hold on,
0.03%
ma. Hold on,
of
ma.
the
Hold on, ma.
DNA of the Taino Indians. and it's coming from the females because these Spaniards, these Africans, were having sex with the women. You know what I mean? These Spaniards, conquistadors, all these people, they came over without their wives
Uh-huh.
and they married these women. And like some people like to say they're all raped, which isn't true. You know what I mean? And that's where they're living through
So
today.
the
Okay.
That's how
mitochondrial
we
DNA
see
doesn't
today
Hold
doesn't
on,
these
it has
religions of
no
these Caribbean
no.
islands.
Hold
So
on, hold
the
on.
But
mitochondrial
I'm going
DNA
off
has
of
no
the Hebrew
significance. I'm
Israelite
just
thing. I'm
kind of
going off of the Hebrew
confused.
Israelite thing.
Hold on, ma. Hold
So,
on, ma. Hold on, ma.
This
yeah,
this'll
that's
all
very
help y'all
disrespectful. Like
easier if y'all
we
watch
having a
Toy Story.
conversation and it turns into yelling and screaming.
Hold on,
Um,
Brody. Hold on,
very
Brody.
disrespectful.
Nobody's yelling and screaming. This is
So
crazy.
Wait, just let me listen to him. I'm gonna let him finish. Just let him finish.
yeah, so um, what we see in these books that saying that black people were Israelites and stuff, you will find that these books were written during that time period.
Uh-huh.
And the information that's in these things, like for instance, if I believe it, Babylon the Temple 2, I believe that was the name of the book, or the
Yeah,
book that I'm
Babylon. Yeah,
referencing.
yeah. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about,
I
but
know the book,
that's
but
yeah.
I'm saying I'm trying to remember if this thing that I'm trying to say was in that book or not, or there
Are
was
you
another
talking
book.
about the Alpha Tish? The Alpha
No,
Tish?
the Dinka tribe. I think it was the Dinka tribe, and was trying to say that they wore a
Oh.
breastplate like the
No,
Levites.
that's from the Ashanti. I already know what that's from. Where they showed the picture
Ashanti,
of the
the
nigga on the
Ashanti,
boat.
the
Where
Ashanti. That's what it was.
they
But
showed
it
the
might
nigga
have
on
been
the
a
boat.
different book. It might have been not been in Babylon the Temple too. It
No,
was
it was
another book
no
written by the same author, I believe.
it's off of Google. It's off of Google, and I know exactly it because the nigga that they show
No,
is
this is way
Shanti
before
King.
Google. I read
Hold
this in
on,
a book.
hold on. But this my bad. I'm just saying where they get the picture from instead of going to the actual book to read it. They get the picture from Google, and it's a nigga sitting on a boat with the so-called ephod on his chest, and it's a Shanti King. That with white people, you know what I'm saying, white folks standing behind him. I know exactly what picture I know what you're talking about. But go ahead.
Rudolph Lisder, I believe
Uh,
the guy's name was. It
yep,
comes
yep,
from one of his books. The guy that
yep,
wrote Babylon the Temple too. He
yep. But
wrote
they just
another book.
but to see the
It comes
thing,
from one of
yeah,
those
go ahead.
books.
Uh-huh. Right, for
So
sure.
now you can find out and look at the Ashanti tribe. The Ashanti tribe was slave traders.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Exactly.
So
So
how
was the
do you
Igbo,
get
so was the Fulani.
this
Uh-huh.
man being now? This is the horrible scholarship where
Right.
black people making books and not using sources and just speculating, saying, "Oh, the color of this," just like Aria, for
Right.
example,
Yeah,
said that the
I
Native
know. Yeah,
Americans are
I know.
Israelites
Because
because
they
he'll
bring
show
up
a
that
picture of them.
Ethiopians are real Hebrews, all that. That's where they get the prophecy from Isaiah. I know. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they would use these little things. It won't be real history. Like, you know what I'm saying? It just be some made up shit that sound good. Like I
Uh-huh.
said, Afrocentrism was created to give black people self-esteem. Now,
Right.
this is after the civil rights movement.
Hmm.
So there was a major thing with these so-called blackly black, pro-African, African, all this bullshit, right? There
Right.
was a problem with the civil rights movement with them. So they
Uh-huh.
want black people to stay African and all this stuff and not assimilate into the rest of American people.
Right.
So you get people lying
Hmm.
about certain things.
Right.
You get Ivan Van Sturdima. We came here before Columbus. Oh, nigga. The only boats that they was making in West Africa was made out of a ceiba tree. So they ain't no canoe gonna cross the motherfucking Atlantic Ocean.
Uh-huh.
You got they talk about Mansa
That's
Musa.
not true.
Oh, he came to America.
That's not.
Where
That,
can you show me that Mansa Musa came to America?
That's
The
because
story
they
was
no, hold
created
on,
by a
but
French
so
you have to
hold.
poet.
Well, hang,
know
I
what
just want to. Can I
you have
comment
to
on one thing, please?
yeah, go
I
ahead,
just
brother.
Okay.
want
Go
to
ahead.
comment on the idea that a canoe cannot cross the oceans is not true, because the motherfuckers that they was taking canoes from the Melanesian islands and got all the way to Hawaii using canoes. That's
Okay.
all.
Now that was the
Okay.
Melanesians, right?
Okay,
Right.
yeah,
Those
right,
are the
right.
first people. Those are the first people in the ages were the first people to be able to cross the ocean.
Well,
Okay.
Now you have
Right.
Melanesians are black,
ocean
hence the
bearing
name
ships,
Melanesian.
right? right, but the ocean bearing ships wasn't invented till way after.
Okay,
Like
but
they
hold
say,
on.
Mansa
Hold on, wait,
Musa,
stay
right?
on
Now there
topic.
was a
Stay.
white
Okay,
guy
right, for
that
sure.
created a straw boat. It
Uh-huh.
took him about 2 or 3 tries for him to actually cross the Atlantic in a straw boat.
Uh
The first couple attempts, that motherfucker stunk. Now, the story with Mansa Musa, right? They say that now this was written by a French poet that got the information from some Arabs. They
right.
said that these people went out, they found a channel in the water, and half of them went, and the other half turned back and told Mansa Musa that these people went and they disappeared and shit, all this shit. So he got all of his boats together and he sailed off, and they never saw this nigga again.
Mm,
And nobody who came back from these Americas that black people try to say that Mansa Musa came to America. There's nobody that came back to report on it. So to say that he went to America, you can't say that because there's
Why would
no
they report
evidence
on it?
of it.
That's
Okay,
Black
okay,
History.
but
Right
You know
now,
wait,
what I
they say
mean?
hold
So
on.
where are we going
Right
with this
now,
with
they
our
say
okay,
Black
all
conversation?
right,
History
all
didn't
right. I'm
exist.
going a little.
Hold
I'm
on,
going a little
that's why I
off. You're
said
right.
I was
So
letting
back
you
to the
talk.
Ashanti. Back to Ashanti.
Uh
So we have these tribes that we try to say that have all these Israelite customs.
right.
We see that these were the people that was selling us or
Exactly.
selling as slaves into America. The
Uh-huh.
white man wasn't coming on the land snatching us up.
Hmm.
They was buying us fair and square.
Right.
Fair and square. Hey, take this. Let me get them niggas.
Now
And it was
that
just regular business.
right,
There was
okay.
people from all over the world buying slaves.
Okay,
It was
okay.
regular business. There wasn't no racism involved. If there was any racism, it was amongst the African people themselves.
Right, okay. Now okay,
So
you
now,
I've been letting
how
you
do
talk
you
for a
get
minute, my brother.
all these Hebrew Israelite stuff, like saying that, oh, we was the Hebrew Israelites, and they use that Deuteronomy 28.
Yeah.
Now, a Hebrew Israelite will never quote the beginning of Deuteronomy 28 when
Uh-huh.
it says what would happen if you follow God. Because
Eh,
we see now in the movement, nobody's receiving the blessings. It's
Right,
always we curse. The white
right.
man doing this to us, the white man doing that to us. What? Now you a Hebrew Israelite, you're speaking the language, you
Hmm.
you got your culture back and all this stuff. Now the book tell you you're supposed to take your culture away. So how the fuck you got it back? I don't know, right? So if you got it back, you must be doing better. But they always talk about the oppression of America's given to them and all this stuff like that. So
Right.
they never tell you about Deuteronomy, the beginning of Deuteronomy 28, because for their movement to work, they have to convince you that you're in captivity
Uh-huh.
and bad things are happening to you constantly.
Hmm.
You getting laid off on your job and you calling your boss the fucking cracker and shit, and then he fire your ass and you blaming it Esau oppressing me.
Now, okay,
I was
hold on,
there
hold on.
before. I was in the
Now
movement before.
let me just
Go
stop
ahead,
you
go
for
ahead.
one
My
second. Let
bad.
me stop you for 1 second.
Go ahead.
Everything that you named, I've already told you I do not follow as in the One West camp. So I give you an example. For one, when you were just bringing up Esau, I do not believe Esau is the so-called white man. For
Right.
two,
I remember that
okay,
that doctrine came out
hold on,
in the
hold on.
group.
I understand that. I understand that the niggas from New York, where they started with ICUPK, that's when I had brung them up, and you talked about REI. I know who REI is because then after
Right.
that, Bishop Nathaniel is the one who started ICUPK, and he's a whole police officer in New York. I know these things. But
UIC.
everything when I was saying that when you was bringing up the One West doctrine and you said the whole Hebrew Israelite movement is a cult
Yeah.
and all that. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand that, and I'll say that.
Because it all comes out of there.
But
No matter
look,
how you look at it, it
but
all
look,
comes from
listen.
there. The
It
doctrine is taken from there, whether you
now
use
I
certain
told you
doctrines or not. But
this
go
is
ahead. I'm
another
sorry to
thing.
cut you off.
No, you all good. You all good. The other thing that I was telling you about Esau and Jacob being twin brothers. The only difference between Jacob and Esau, and this is even written by Josephus, one was hairy, one wasn't hairy. Okay? They was twin brothers. They wasn't no. I'm not bringing no one West doctrine where I'm saying, oh, they were fraternal twins. No, they were identical twins. The only difference between one another was one was hairy, one wasn't hairy. That's the whole thing with Rachel. And she brought up, she said, nigga, go ahead, put on this fur. You know what I'm saying? You gotta cause he said, damn shit, nigga, you sound like Jacob. God damn it, you know what I'm saying? You don't sound like Esau. I just sent him to go ahead and do that. So I don't believe that Esau and Jacob is this the Edomites are white people, and we did that. Then another thing that I said it was really the Hebrew Israelites' fault because I'm not one to bring up the curses because it's just the curses. I understand that there's blessings too, but at the same time, when do you ever see the Israelites really following the whole law? Time and time after 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 time, you see y'all old time. He like, man, look, if y'all just turn back to me, you know what I'm saying? Y'all will be good. So it's not that I'm not missing the blessings. I understand that there's blessings. But at the same time, when we go through the curses, then you bring up Deuteronomy 28 and 68. When I brought it up to you, you said the same thing that I said when I explained to you when I said that the word for sold is a reflexive verb. It means that one has sold themselves, and then you brought
Yup.
up the the Romans and whoever you say white people is, and walk the bam that
Yeah.
that's why I was already telling you the English translation don't even make sense because it said that you'll be sold, but no one will buy you. How the fuck you gonna be sold if no one's gonna buy you? You know what I'm saying? So with knowing that the reflexive verb and we're gonna sell ourselves, that's indentured servitude. Then we will later get forced to a place of fortresses, right? Where America has over they have more fortresses or pyramids than the actual Egypt. Now when Masha had told the Israelites, he said, y'all ain't never gonna see uh uh Egypt like this again, meaning y'all are not going to be chattel slaves like how y'all were, and the rigorous slavery that y'all had to go through ever again in the land of actual Egypt.
Okay.
So
Now,
that
okay,
that
go ahead.
prophecy, why would Masha or who they call Moses contradict himself? And then you said that you got people who went on ships to Egypt. It wasn't meant to go back to the actual place, Egypt in Africa. It's talking about a land of
Okay.
fortresses. That's what Masrain means. It means a land of fortresses. When I had spoken,
Okay.
I said, Ashar Hosatecha ma Aras Masrain ma Bel Rabadaim. Rabadaim is the house of bondage. Right? They were in a they were servants, they was in bondage. But that is not the
Yeah.
same word as Matzraim, which means land of fortresses or pyramids or things like that.
Okay.
So that's why I said
So
I
do
don't.
you?
You can't come at me with a one West Hebrew Israelite doctrine or Black Hebrew Israelite doctrine because that's something that I was in already, and I already tell people shit that was wrong, nigga. I tell people I was just telling people today, nigga. Sakari tried to have me go to their so-called Passover meal at a strip club for $200. That's not. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not. I can see for myself that certain things, but then when you get into reading the Hebrew, you actually understand it. That's why I always say you cannot quote Shakespeare if you do not speak Old English.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Hebrew. You can't quote from
You
this
totally
Bible. Uh,
have yourself separated from what they would call the one West or whatever, right?
mhm.
But I always go back to say, okay, where did you get the idea that you're an Israelite? And no matter how much people say, I call them I ain't in no camp. A lot of them I call them Israelite, internet Israelites, right?
Uh-huh,
I ain't
uh-huh.
in no camp, right? But their doctrine, the base or the framework, their doctrine goes back to what people call one West.
I
That
thought
And
it
no
go
matter
back to
how
British.
much
I
stuff
thought
because
it
they
went back to
omit
British
from it,
One
Israelism.
West is more than
we,
just one congregation. It's a
right,
whole
right. No, no,
movement.
but it was one congregation at
Right,
one
I thought
and you
time.
that.
got a lot
I
of
was
I
niggas
thought
there
that.
that
for
Hey,
the
bro.
actually.
split. I was there for the main split when
Mhm.
ICUPK split with the
Exactly.
House
Yeah,
of
yeah,
David with Tahar and Masha. I was there for that.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I was taught
I
under the
thought that
House
shit
of
was just a
David in
black version of
Connecticut.
British
That
Israelism.
that was the
Now,
Aleph Dalet where they used with the Lashon Kadan, but then or Kadash, and I was trying to tell people this is a debate that I was gonna have with Silky. With did is modern Hebrew a reformed Canaanite dialect? Because modern Hebrew is a reformed Canaanite dialect. Things like Aleph, Bet, Gamol, Dalet, those things we did not have in our alphabet. Our alphabet was it was like the first letter is I, which is a flagpole and not a ox head. The ox head is given from the Canaanites when with the Phoenicians, and they worship the Aleph. The way to say ox in Hebrew is alap, but we didn't go by that. It was ah, ba. It was always the each sound was ended with
okay.
inherent
So, all right,
short a
my
vowel.
bad.
Mhm.
What
But
I
that
was gonna say, okay, you said that it's a flagpole and not an oxhead.
uh-huh.
Does academia say that the Canaanite, so-called ancient Hebrew, Phoenician, or whatever, that Hebrew didn't come from that?
I'm
Are
not
they
saying
saying
that.
that?
No, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying after a certain time, you gotta remember in this story, we're among these people. This is even told about in Judges, where you got the Ephraimites who's getting convicted because they're starting to they trying to kill off a certain amount of Ephraimites and saying, do y'all say this word as in sin or shin? Because the Canaanites, they by that time they already had their
This is what you're
dialect
getting
of
at.
Hebrew.
That's in the Hebrew Israelite doctrine. Now,
I
well,
know it
that's
is.
kind of
That
like what I was getting at
yeah,
before.
and they
It's
say
like
Baba Wa
people.
Kasha and Shalawam and all that bullshit. They don't know
No,
how
I'm
to
not
speak
even getting
real
on that
Hebrew.
part. I'm not
They
even
don't
getting
know
on
how to
that
speak.
part.
They don't know how to speak
It's the
real Hebrew.
lesson. The lessons, like people are disassociating themselves from the Hebrew Israelite movement, the so-called one, what people call today One West,
Uh-huh.
right? Well, this is what they just call. I'm just using so everybody. I'm using that term so everybody know what I'm talking about. Now, um, when the split happened, right?
Right.
The House of David was the only active group, really active group
But you also
that were
had
out there
Levites and
teaching hard.
Benjamites in his group.
Right now, YouTube came about. Tahar hopped
Are
on
you talking
YouTube
about? You
and he
talking about
blew
that?
up.
Uh-huh.
And the other groups, like just like Johanna, like they say Johanna was a dope fiend. After the 2000 prophecy, most people went back in the world,
Yeah, because that
so-called world.
2000 prophecy
And
didn't
Johanna
happen.
was all
They
fucked up on
lied.
drugs, all that shit, right? But then
Uh-huh.
they see how good Tahar was doing on YouTube in 2008. And they say, hey, shit, we can get back here and get this money, right? So
Yeah.
now the IUIC, right, started,
Mhm.
right? I helped start the military cadence you see in IUIC. That was created by me. The how them motherfuckers is holding niggas down and shit on the sidewalk. That was started by me.
Okay.
The t-shirts, the stupid ass purple t-shirts, those were printed by me.
Mm.
And so the main thing they had to do, they had no choice but to do this to get Tahar out of the way was to say talk about the rape doctrine.
Them niggas,
So
yeah, them they follow Paul, so
right
you gotta
now
you gotta
they all
understand that
believe in the rape
they
doctrine
they rape
behind closed
doctrine.
doors. They believe in the rape doctrine.
I know no, it's not behind closed doors. It's when they tell you they say, oh, Paul said, nigga, a woman ain't really got no say so. God damn it, she can't wear braids. She can't wear no jewelry. Niggas ain't supposed to have long hair. She ain't supposed to dress like no man. All that shit. That's the One West doctrine. I know exactly how they brought. I know how they brought because
So
this is. I'm telling you, IUIC. They had it when I had ended up talking to one of it's the sleuth tooth nigga. I forgot what the fuck his name is, man, but he in IUIC And I ended up asking them about the rape charge and shit that they had about this girl who ended up going missing in a camp. That's why I had started. That's why I got. That was another reason
Same.
why I got out the camp.
I
So I
fuck with that
understand
story.
where you got brung up from. But I got to ask you this: if I was to tell you a lie, would I not use some of the truth?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
then.
what I'm meaning by this, I know I'm long winded. Excuse me for being so long winded,
No, you
but
all good.
when
You all
I
good.
see these groups that disassociate themselves from so-called One West, when you really get to talk to them, their lessons, their phrases that they say,
Yeah,
it'll
because it's
all go back
you,
there. You will
okay.
see, you will see the remnants of or the evidence of the influence from the cult.
Right.
So that be my major thing when I say all of them are a cult. Because
Okay.
it like I done seen all these split offs and stuff and how they work. And it used to puzzle me. I'm like, yo, how are these groups just popping up and getting all these followers and stuff? Because they're getting people, members for one, like Sakari, for instance, right? Sakari was
Yeah.
put out of
Uh huh.
GMS for selling heroin and shit, right?
Uh
And they
huh.
wouldn't let him back in. He started Sakari. I created Sakari's first logo
Right.
and
Right.
shit.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm like I'm very involved. I was very involved in the movement.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, how the fuck is these motherfuckers just popping up, starting a group and blowing up like this? And they disassociate themselves from One West. The cult has a blueprint, it has a framework, and I see it. I see it in every single group. They say, "Oh, I ain't in no camp," and then I ask them, "How you know you an Israelite?" And then they'll show
Okay.
me Deuteronomy 28.
This is what I
Or
would say to
like
you.
you said about the language, about say
This
this
is
to
what I
us.
would
That
say
was
to
the
you.
scripture says, say this to us, and the Jews language or whatever, and the motherfuckers pronounce the word a certain way.
Uh
You know
huh.
what I mean? That
Right.
lesson, and it's funny, it's not just scriptures that being quoted just
Okay,
throughout the Bible. It's
but when
always
you
the scriptures that were said in the original code, or just phrases. Oh,
but
you
you got
got
to think of
cut,
this. Okay, look, just
or
like you
you
say
got.
phrases. Hold
I
on.
know the people that
Just
actually
like
made
you
these
say
phrases up.
phrases. Just like you say
You know
phrases,
what I
right?
mean?
Just okay. I'm gonna let you know. Just like you say phrases, right? They tell you precept upon precept, right?
Yeah,
When you look up the word precept, it means law. It don't just mean. Actually, what was happening, and this is gonna sound crazy, but I'm gonna let you know this.
yeah,
This is why I'm telling you, I'm not one West. When it says that, because you got to remember how the context start off. It's talking about the Operaim or Ephraim, and he tell them in a translation you see that they're drunkards, right? But they was actually high, and what happened was the precept upon precept is a mock Isaiah or Yeshayahu, and he's repeating how these niggas was high, trying to preach and trying to talk about the law and all this, and then you got these niggas repeating the same thing. They're literally stuttering and saying the same thing because these niggas is they're it's a drunkards, but these they was under the influence. I give it the benefit of that. They was under the influence.
but
These
what
people
I'm
started
saying
off
is
getting
the group.
mocked
Like
about,
when
oh,
you just explain this,
y'all niggas
the
tripping. Y'all
stick
say
to
to
it.
repeat yourself, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. Then it gets
What
into telling law upon law. That's a little bit here and a little bit there.
Yeah,
It's
that's their
not
reason
talking
for them
about
to skip
no.
throughout the
You
Bible
just pick
and pick.
a sentence that got the same word as the next sentence in it. That's not how
Yeah,
David was talking about reading the precepts and all that, because they didn't even bring it to
and they
David.
say that's
But
enough there.
no,
They
no,
reading a verse
exactly.
and then
That's
they come to a verse that would just contradict
that.
what they're trying to say. And when they
Yeah,
get to that verse, they say that's enough there.
but
You
that's
know what I
because
mean? It's all
they mix and
a
mingle. They
game.
mix and mingle just like you was talking about with the certain in the first century AD. I think he was bringing up Herod, if I'm not mistaken. And you got to realize that the only people in the first century AD that was claiming to be Jews and from the tribe of Benjamin were uh Edomites who were under the people of Herod. Herod was an Edomite, but that does not, I'm not saying as a white person, nothing like that. I'm not saying he had any, I'm not talking about skin color at all. And um they got forced to follow Judaism under John Hyrenius or I forgot how to say his name. John. I know his first name is John. And those were the only people, and that's why they call it Hellenistic Judaism, because those people in that time era that was very educated in Roman and Greek philosophy, they their citizenship came from King Herod now. You couldn't just, that's how you think Paul was just able to get a letter from the high priest or whoever he got it from, that wasn't, that was supposedly from Jerusalem and was a so-called Jew, but didn't have no say so over the government that was over the, you know what I'm saying, the I'm paraphrasing, but it was either the Greeks or the Romans. And goddamn it, uh those people there, that's that's a whole different ball game. But
That's great. You explain those things, right? You know what I mean? That's awesome. But my thing, what I'm trying to say is that these groups that split off, like how you talk about these scriptures, and I know these scriptures that you're talking about.
and that's why
Why
I'm
I
bringing
know
them to
them?
you, because
Because they're
that
mentioned
people can't.
in the cult.
Yeah. Uh,
Now, what I'm not, I don't know if you're a leader of the group or whatever, right? You can just be a student, a member, or whatever,
I'm
right?
a student.
Now, if you're just a member, you doing the most. You doing exactly what the leader wants you to do, is to go and discredit One West, discredit these doctrines, right?
Wait, huh?
And then y'all got a new. I'm not saying you like this putting something on you, but I'm saying this is what like a cult, how a cult would be run, and how these groups just say like, what's the name of shit when they talk about a higher and shit. I forgot the GOCC or whatever,
I
right?
see you keep bringing up the cult. I guess I'll just say
Right now,
we're the
what
best
what I
culture
am,
of
because
them all.
like this is what I do, right? I educate people on the Hebrew Israelite code. So
Okay.
what? This is something that I see. I'm not
Uh-huh.
putting this on you particularly,
They
but
arch enemies.
the doctrine, even the correcting of doctrines, is always has a connection to that original group, aka cult One West. It always had, it seems to me that it's always a connection. So when you leave a cult, there's another cult to pick you up, especially you leave IUIC, right? And you get picked up by ISUPK. You already pre-programmed. You know the scriptures, and now this other group's job is to rewire you to say, okay, there is no rape doctrine, or this scripture here is
No,
actually
it's because
saying
when
this.
you actually
So
read
now
it,
in your mind, oh, I wasn't taught right. Now this is the truth, and now this group, their main subjects and stuff that they teach is discrediting the cult, but they'll have their own spin to these things. You know what I mean? And that what keeps the person indoctrinated, that what keeps the member obedient and stuff like that. That's kind of like what I'm getting at, is that like I see people that say, I ain't in no camp, right? But the teachings are very similar, or if not in line with the camp, whether agreeing with certain doctrines or disagreeing. Because there's
but you're
only
saying I'm
certain
in,
scriptures are only said in the
because
cult.
I
And you
know
go to the
that you,
Christian church, they're not even talking about them scriptures.
yeah, but I know that
Just
you
like they
kind
tell
of.
you, oh, they ain't gonna show you this in church. They ain't gonna show you this
But
in
look, listen,
church.
listen, listen,
Like, you know what I
listen.
mean?
This
That's what
I
I'm
know
getting
what you
at.
mean, but you at the same time, what you're getting at is you kind of like passively aggressive. You kind of you're not saying that you're not talking about me, but then at the same time, I
What I'm
haven't gave
saying
you
is that
nothing.
you're being
Hold on, hold
very
on.
civil with
No,
me.
no,
You're
no,
being
no, no,
very
no.
civil. We're having a good conversation.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not about
That's
to.
what I mean.
I'm
I'm
not
not
about to change the.
attacking you.
I'm not about to change the
Attack your
direction of it.
movement.
I'm
I'll
just.
attack your movement, but you, I'm not attacking.
Okay,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
understand
I
that.
attack you. I attack the shit out the movement. That's what
Okay,
I do.
okay.
Whether like, you know what I'm saying? I just hope you don't get offended by it because a lot of people throw up a defense mechanism when you speak on their group in any shape or form or way. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So I
Maybe
don't
I
want you to
was
feel like that. You can
okay.
disagree with me all you want. Most likely you're gonna disagree with me. But
Maybe
this is
maybe
what
I did
my
put up a
years of
defense mech.
studying these groups, this is what I come across.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's
Okay.
what I come across.
Okay.
Like you said, God's name is Yahoo, or however you pronounce it, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's the exclusive thing that's coming out your group. That's why I asked you in the beginning, is there anybody in academia using that? Because a cult will have an exclusive name, just like Yahweh.
Do
You
you
say Yahweh, you can't find nothing else in academia with
do
motherfucker or
you
any
have
other religion using the word Yahweh, except
now?
One West.
Hey, does academia edu count?
What? Say that? What? So what was that?
Does academia edu does that count? If I give you somebody's name to go in there and look, does that count?
Well, ain't that like a site where anybody could write a paper or something and upload it?
Yeah, but the thing is that if they're at a certain percentage, is because you got people and when I say people, you educated people and some non-educated people who agree with the
No,
subject,
that in
and
there
you're.
too.
But I was just gonna give you his name so that you could.
Okay, because there's a
'Cause-
lot of people you can find. Somebody showed me a white dude that had a doctorate and he was using Yahweh.
No,
Ain't a
see,
lot. Then you
Yahweh
go to
comes.
look up these
Yeah,
people,
Yahweh comes
they might
from.
not even have a doctorate, or they've been thrown out of their circle. You know, like they got a council or whatever. They can't write no book and shit and just put it out. That
But
shit gets observed by their
Hey,
peers and
I
it's
want
stuff
usually
can I
like
the
that.
touch on
same
something
thing.
your
So
brothers was speaking
I
on
look
before,
at
bro?
that shit too.
Yeah, go ahead.
You
Go
know what I
ahead.
mean?
All right, because I'm at work, so I've been on mute this whole time. When you guys were talking about the term precept, are you guys aware that a precept or rule or law is a basic foundation in indoctrination or mind control? So when the book says to study line upon line, precept upon precept, they're framing it as build up your knowledge, and all of that, but it becomes mind control when the information that the individual is learning is never to be questioned and told is the absolute truth. And that's what happens in biblical, and then when you apply it to the biblical narrative, it's taught to people as saying this is God's word and it's never to be questioned. If you question it, you're rebelling against it, you're not a believer. So it becomes mind control and indoctrination to say you read this until you believe it, without question, and have unwavering faith. So
Okay,
nowadays,
where does your
That's what's
definition
happening
of
on this
precept come
phone
from?
call right now. That's what's happening on this phone call right now, Timothy.
well, okay, I heard two people talk. I heard you. Like, what did the other person say?
I was just asking where did that definition come from?
No, it's the definition of it's in psychology. So a precept is a rule or a law, but a rule or a law becomes indoctrination where you can't question the law. You do as it's like your parents will tell you, do as I say, not as I do. Because your parents will be smoking weed and tell you you better not be smoking no weed, and they smoking weed right in your face. So you're taught that smoking weed is bad, and never question that it's bad, because you better not question your mom and your daddy. They will slap you upside your goddamn mouth. But they sitting there smoking weed, all while
It's
telling
like
you
the
it's bad.
defense mechanism I was
Yeah.
talking about
All, all,
when you
all while
say,
telling
I'm
all while
sorry.
telling you it's bad and you better not never do it. It's the worst shit you can do in your fucking life. And they sitting there blowing weed in your face. You better not touch that fucking weed. That shit is drugs. And they sitting there smoking this shit. So that's when it becomes a in psychology. That's when it becomes indoctrination because you're taught to believe this rule without question. If you question it, you get popped in your goddamn mouth.
Yep. And they use that in the school. Do as I say, not as I do. When leadership got caught doing shit, that's what was said to the members. He's absolutely right. And that's what I was saying about the defense mechanism that said, like, we having a civil conversation, right? I could be talking to this brother about something and the other person they agree with, they laughing, they giggling at the nigga and shit, right? But soon as I say something to them about their thing, all hell break loose. You know what I mean? So like that's why I asked first, does anybody else in the studies of religious studies use that term Yahoo or whatever, or Yahoo, however you pronounce it? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. But you know what I mean? It's the defense thing come up. Not saying that's what he's doing, but I see that.
There are
And
not many scholars who use
people
that term.
and when you're like the indoctrination, like he's saying, he's reading these verses and stuff, and I say how I always see the similarity because these verses, a lot of these verses are used for control. They're used for control to say, if you don't believe this, now I done showed you the truth. Now, if you go outside of that, the Most High can kill you. Like the famous, you might go out on the street and the Most High hits you with a bus. That's the famous term, and it's still being used today.
Well,
And
it's like how a lot of
so,
it's another example is how a lot of men use it to assert dominance over women. You know that this is the word
right,
of
same
God.
thing.
God
Yeah.
said that I'm the man, that I'm the head, and you the under me, type shit. So it's it's just you got to be careful with these certain types of things.
And it's very crafty how they do it. Like me, a cult member usually goes through something first. Like they might have been a death in the family or something tragic happened. And now, or you could just be a person that's always looked for religion or God and stuff like that, right? And then you run into these people and they have all the answers for you. They have all the
Or it
answers.
seems.
And some of the answers are half truths. Just like the dude was saying earlier. Some of the shit, they use some of the truth to tell you some bullshit. And then you fall in. And then you just start, they answer the things you wanted to hear first. And then they start feeding you more, right? Like with me was the history, right? I was in the Islam, Yahweh ben Yahweh, Rastafarianism, 5%, fucking the Moors, all that shit I was studying back in the 90s, early 90s, and late
But
80s.
it's
And
interesting
then
you
I
said
came
that.
across the
That's
Hebrew
crazy.
Israelites in my city, and they answer questions that I asked. And then they tell me I was on my way being a Muslim. They said Muhammad wore a dress and painted fingernails. That Quran is toilet paper. Don't you know the Quran says that Israel was God's chosen people? And that nigga went right to Cows 222 and showed me where it says Israel is God's chosen people. So what you need the Quran for? You know what I'm saying? Blah, 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 blah. I'm a young kid, like, right? So I start dealing with them. Then they start telling you about, the slave trade and King James was a black man, and they're gonna show you a motherfucking photocopy of King
It's the
James. The
curses. The
photocopy was
curses.
copied about 15 times. Dude, he looks black. I did a video on my channel where I showed the original image that they use and what it looked like after they photocopied a million times.
Mm,
The man is white. You know what I'm saying?
definitely
And
a white man.
yeah, definitely. And they use all these little half truths. Oh, they show you these pictures of the medieval, the dark ages, and black people ruled Europe. That's absolute bullshit. And I used to be in the library all fucking day trying to find images of black and shit and England and shit, and I can never find them. And the ones I look like at, I question. I'm like, wait a minute, those niggas ain't niggas. That's a white
Now,
motherfucker. What? He's
My
got
brother,
pointy
I
ass
will
nose
say,
and shit. And then you don't know about ancient art. They'll tell you that Buddha was black. And look, the dreads that he got. No, nigga, that's ancient art. Like if you study, I did a video on that too. You study ancient art, you get to understand what these certain colors of the people represent. In Rome, if somebody had
I
dark
don't know.
skin, that meant
Buddha
there was a
Buddha did
servant.
have dreads though,
If
and
you
they
had
called them
real pale
tatas.
skin, you was royalty. But why? Because the darker skinned person was out there in the sun, while the royal people was under a canopy or indoors. Like Yara, right? Lion ass Yara, right? Call himself a priest and shit. He never been ordained and shit. But he sit there and lie and bear false witness. I helped Chris Harris debate him years ago, right? And I showed Chris Harris the statue. It was called The Ruler. It was a bust of some person. Now, the curator of the museum that was there, nobody knows who this man is. But they called it the ruler. Why they called it the ruler? Because the way the art was crafted. He had enlarged eyes. That represents somebody of importance. But they didn't have a name for him. Now here come Yara debating him, and I'm texting Chris as the debate going on. You stupid ass nigga! I just showed you the statue fucking yesterday and shit, right? And Yara gives the nigga a name. Said it was Neymar or some bullshit like that, right? And then I went and showed the motherfucking video, and that's when the nigga gonna make a video trying to say I was molested and I molest kids and shit, made this big old false video and shit, right? But he supposed to be a priest and follow God. But he got so upset, and I'm like, where's your source for this? He gives me a book by this man, I forgot his name, but instead of having the man's name PhD, it says PhD candidate.
Oh
I
shit.
said PhD candidate doesn't mean he has a PhD. He tries to convince me over and over that the man got a PhD. I said, no, it's PhD candidate. I actually went to the site where the people load their dissertations and theses, all that shit to get their PhD. And the man was denied. And they sent him back to the drawing board, and the man never submitted his work again. And he lost his PhD. Right? And then I broke down what a PhD candidate is and all this shit. Like, you know what I mean? So these people get these books and say, just like someone was saying earlier, like the other day, that we don't need to go to school and shit to be able to teach people and all this. The fuck you don't. This is how we stop all the bullshit. There's a council, and it's not just white people. Like they say, oh, we the white people dictate everything and shit. We listen to their story, their version of it. You can go to school and you can be part of their version, or you can have your own version. You go get your schooling. Ain't nobody stopping you for doing that. You know what I mean? But the black people are so like weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? Y'all want to win. Y'all just want to win at any means necessary. Just
Right.
like the Afrocentric shit. These niggas lie their ass off to make themselves look good. They sit there and lie all motherfucking day. Dr. Jet, they ain't never had no motherfucking doctorate. The schools you go to, the universities, they don't got that nigga nowhere on the list of having a doctorate or having a master's in any of that shit. He had a master's in mechanical engineering from a university in Puerto Rico. That's all that nigga had. Now, he studied all this shit. He wrote some books. Anybody could do that. But that don't mean his shit correct. Thus, Dr. Henry Clark, he got a doctor. He got an honorary doctorate. Bill Cosby has an honorary doctorate from Temple University. Well, they took it from him after the allegation shit. They took it from him.
Damn.
But when they see your work and they say, "Oh, this man is actually doing some achievements and stuff like that," they give you an honorary doctorate.
Yeah,
That
Right.
means you didn't go to school for none of that shit, but
right,
they respect your work
right. Just like
and you did enough
Puffy.
of the research and stuff that they give that to you.
I
Puffy
might as
got an
well get one.
honorary. Puffy had got an honorary degree in business from I forget was it Harvard or somewhere, but they were saying that
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
one of them Jones.
yeah, they gave him an honorary degree because it was like look at all this shit that he accomplished and he didn't even go to school to do this shit and he did
Right.
everything that people go to school and
get the
You can
degree
get a
and
job,
don't do.
and it tells you gotta have a bachelor's in this and such in science or whatever, right? Or they say or 4 years in this field of work, and
Right.
you can get the job. So you work 4 years, and you don't have to have an engineering degree. You don't have to have
Well,
a
Ivan
master's
Van
in engineering.
Sertima
You work
had
10 years in the
degrees.
craft.
Ivan Van Sertima had degrees in two of the
Huh?
fields that qualify you to become an anthropologist.
But anyway, so
Yeah, I bet.
you have all these people and stuff, like, you know what I mean? The stuff is honored. If you do the work, you're honored, right? But you get this come up and just make up shit. And that's what we find a lot of black people do books. And that's,
Is it me or is
they're
he breaking
making
up?
up shit. A lot of black also they're like, I don't know if it's better now. Back, I'm sorry. They're like, I don't know if it's better. It's become a problem. Just like Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Khalid Muhammad. That he got no fucking doctorate. He don't even honorary doctorate. I got a Polaroid picture. I don't know if y'all ever seen that. It's on my YouTube channel in a short. I got my boy gave me a Polaroid picture of Sonetter, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and this other dude that was the leader, the president of the New Black Panther Party. I forgot the guy's name. Now on that Polaroid is written Dr. Khalid Muhammad and Dr. Malik
Malik
Quran.
Shabazz.
Now, Dr. Khalid Quran was Sonetter. Sonetter could barely read, but he got doctor in front of his name, Dr. Malik Quran. I've heard him even say that name plenty of times on his channel. That nigga ain't got no doctorate. He also did a video saying that we should be able to give our own black scholars doctorates. That's the most stupidest, ridiculous shit on this goddamn earth.
How
You
is
know how much
how is it
fucking
ridiculous?
chaos that
How
would cause
you got
and disinformation?
you got?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? This Afi, how is it ridiculous if somebody studies, like if I study all my African black studies that I have and all that shit for, let's just say, hypothetically, even though I studied it longer, hypothetically 8 years, would that not make me a doctor in that field?
No,
Why wouldn't it?
because there's an actual curriculum that you go through.
Hold
There's
on
tests
one
that are
minute,
made.
you guys.
You have to you
The
have to do.
curriculum,
Hold on one minute,
the
y'all.
books, the
Y'all can
studies, the
resume what y'all
textbooks.
saying.
Go
Hold
ahead.
on. But Sinetta
So what
absolutely
what
could
would stop
read.
you from going to school?
But go ahead.
That is the school. You know that if you get a textbook from the library, it's the same textbook they use in college. So if you
Right,
read either of those, you're still
right.
getting the same information.
Who's there
Why do
to
I why
prove
do I
that you
have to
read it?
go to school if I'm studying something for eight
This is why.
years?
This is why. Because if I went to school and took courses and stuff, and I could have got I went to school for audio engineering in fucking New York City. The same book I could have got from my public library. But there's no hands-on work. There's no testing being made to prove that you're qualified. Anybody
Right.
can read a book.
Because you
Just
can,
like
like to use the example
I'm a
he just used
CNC
right now when
I'm
it
a
came to,
CNC machinist. Check this out. I'm a CNC machinist, right? I'm a contractor for the United States military. I make parts that go on fighter jets and helicopters and submarines. There's a stamp. When I make a part, I put my stamp on that shit. From a little piece of when they dig that metal, that titanium out of the ground, all the way to it comes to me, where I machine the part, and then the part goes somewhere else, maybe get machined again, and then put on that fighter jet. There's a stamp in every process. Now, if that plane crashes and they find out that particular part failed that I made, the FBI, the FAA, whatever, they coming to find me. And guess who's responsible for it? Me. I could go to motherfucking prison for certifying this part that wasn't machined correctly. That's how important my job is. I can go to jail for not doing my job correctly. I can make a wrong measurement and it might slip through inspection or anything, right? Now, if I go get the book on CNC machining, I can learn about CNC machining. I can learn how to use a micrometer, a height gauge, a caliper. I can learn how about offsets on the CNC machine, about feed and speed and all that stuff, right? But guess what? I ain't never had no hands on. When I
Harsh
first finished
conversation.
school and I went on the job, it was like I didn't know nothing. It was like I went to school for nothing. Because now they
Right. Because
showing me shit when I'm using the goddamn machine. Then I'm like, goddamn shit.
even
Boy, I didn't
even
think I
with
know
sound
about this
even with
shit.
the sound
But
engineering
actually
space,
doing it is two different things. I got
like
an
even
argument with
no, just
a programmer the other day. The programmer is the one that takes the CAD drawing and makes it, programs it to run on the CNC machine, right? Now, they want to increase production. So I know how to run the machine like the back of my hand. I know that machine like the back of my hand, like it's my girlfriend. Now he comes over and wants to speed up some shit to make it run about 5 minutes faster. And I'm like, you're pushing the machine too hard. And next thing you know, he increased the feed on the machine. Now the end mill, which is almost like a drill, it runs into it just crashes into the metal and just starts milling that shit out, flame fucking part like metal bits flying everywhere and shit, like right. And it was coming in too fast. So the tool was like a 30-pound tool. Just imagine a drill bit going sideways and it's hitting the material. This is titanium. This is hard as fuck. It's bending the tool. So it starts to dig deeper. My measurements are to the tenths of 1,000. Imagine taking an inch and slicing it into 10,000 slices. That's how precise my work
right.
gotta be. And I
The
have a
right. The whole
tolerance
the whole point of the
of it
matter is
can't
what he's
be
saying,
10
Afi,
on
is the reason
10,000
why
over or 10,000 over under.
the reason
You have to
why
have that
school
shit
is
perfect.
important. The point that he's making is the reason why school
Right.
is
I'm sorry to
important
be long
is
winded.
because everybody know how to. You can take 10,000 people that know how to read, and they can all read the same thing, but not everybody is going to comprehend what's being read. So the point of school and to give you tests and all of that is to make sure that you understand and comprehend what you read. Like the
Thank you.
example he gave with the sound engineering shit. Like you can anybody can go read a book and the book says you make sure to set all decibels to nominal level and ensure that on the third wave band that you bail out frequency 8776. If you don't know what none of that shit is, you reading it
But
don't mean
that's
you know
true.
what
But
it is.
Timothy is in the same sense when you're talking about somebody like Ivan Van Sertima, who absolutely has the credentials, and his students started to
Oh,
call him doctor because he was a professor.
well, yeah, that's a
Then,
different story.
yeah,
That's a different example, though.
that's what I'm saying. So we have the
Degree in
right
African studies
to,
and linguistics,
at most of
no anthropology.
he had
I just
multiple
showed
Can
you
y'all
degrees.
hear
It
that?
wasn't
that
just
it
in
was
linguistics.
okay.
But you didn't have to
Yeah,
show
okay.
me. I
That's
can
what
look it
you've
up
been
myself.
doing and being
He
wrong
has
in
one.
it.